Hello students, in last class we have discussed about general introduction to metallurgy, that is what are minerals, what are ores, different types of minerals and ores, etc. As well as we have also studied various ore concentration procedures. Next step we have studied about calcination as well as roasting. So today let us discuss about the reduction of the oxide form of the ore into its metal form. See, here you can see that reduction of the oxide into metal. Last class we have discussed that the crude metal can be obtained by two steps. First step is conversion of the concentrated ore into its oxide form, that we have already discussed, and the next step is reduction of the oxide into its metal. So what is reduction? You all know that reduction is the process in which the metal oxide is usually converted into its metal form. Okay? That can be done by using certain agents which are called as reducing agents. Here the reducing agent used are either coke, carbon monoxide, or sometimes even another metal also can be used as a reducing agent. And this process generally requires high temperature conditions and it varies from one metal to another metal. Some metals are very easy to obtain because their metal oxides can be very easily reduced, whereas some other metal oxides are very difficult to reduce. So in detail let us study this in next slides, okay? And it can be done in three different ways, that is, one is pyrometallurgy, next one is hydrometallurgy, which we have already discussed, and the third one is electrometallurgical process. For understanding that, you need to know certain concepts like thermodynamic principles, which I will discuss later. In last class we have discussed that there are three important steps in the metallurgical process. First step is concentration of ores. Second step is the isolation of crude metal from the concentrated ore. Third step is refining or purification of metal. So now we have discussed briefly about what is reduction. Next we will discuss further various reduction procedures by taking suitable examples in the next slides. So after the reduction you are going to get the crude metal from its oxide form. Okay. Next is refining process. So what is refining? It is nothing but the purification of the crude metal by removing some metallic or non-metallic impurities. That is called as refining of metal. So after the reduction you are going to get some impure form of metal which may be having some other impurities. It may be in the form of metallic form, or sometimes some non-metals also may be combined in the form of impurity. So in the refining process or purification process, we want to remove all such impurities in order to get the pure metal. And for obtaining the metals of very high purity, different techniques are used, and these techniques are used based on the difference in the properties of the metals as well as its impurity. So these different techniques are listed here. First one is distillation process, second one is liquation, third one is electrolytic refining, fourth one is zone refining, next vapor phase refining, and the last process is chromatographic method or chromatographic techniques. First purification technique is distillation technique. Okay. So you have studied some of the basic concepts of distillation in first PU itself, and you know that distillation can be used for the liquids. If there is a mixture of liquids, then by using the distillation flask, the mixture of liquids are taken and they are heated. When they are heated above their boiling point, the highly volatile liquid evaporates first and then it forms vapors. These vapors are collected over by passing through the condenser, and then in separate container we will get the pure form of the particular compound in the form of distillate. That is the basic principle. Okay. But here we are generally using this for metals like zinc or mercury, which are having generally lower boiling points than their impurities. Okay. So I will repeat, this distillation technique can be used as a purification technique for lower boiling metals like zinc or mercury. Their boiling point is less than their impurities. So how it is done? Here the impure metal is heated above its boiling point in a particular container, and the particular pure metal only boils off and its vapors are passed over the condenser, where it condenses and you are going to get the metal in its liquid form. By this way, lower boiling metals can be separated from their impurities. This can be asked for 2 marks, or sometimes examples may be even asked for 1 mark also. So this is the first technique of purification of the crude metal. Next technique is liquation method. So this technique can be used where the metal is having the lower melting point when compared to its impurities. I repeat, this technique can be used to separate the metal as well as impurities when the metal is having lower melting point than its impurities. Here the impure metal is taken in a furnace. It is added over the sloping earth or sloping surface of a furnace, and it is heated in the absence of air above the melting point of the particular metal. And when the particular metal's melting point is reached, the metal, only the pure metal melts and it flows down and it is collected in separate container. Whereas all the impurities are having higher melting point, so they will remain in the particular sloping earth itself. By this we can separate the pure molten metal as well as its impurities. So this can be used for certain metals like tin, which are having lower melting points than their impurities. So this is the second technique in the purification of the particular metal. Third purification technique is electrolytic refining. So what is electrolytic refining? Here the basic principle is electrolysis process. There will be a tank or there will be a container. In the container, electrolyte is added and there will be 2 electrodes. One is anode, second electrode is cathode. In this particular case, the anode is taken as the impure metal which has to be purified. Generally, a very thick rod of impure metal is taken as the anode, and a very thin strip of the pure metal of the same particular metal, same pure metal is taken in the form of very thin strip, and then it is connected to a battery. And solution of the salt of the same metal is used as the electrolyte in this particular case. So anode is impure metal rod, whereas cathode is thin strip of pure metal, and electrolyte is the solution of the salt in the aqueous form, and that is taken in the electrolytic tank. And on passing certain electric current by using a suitable voltage, pure metal dissolves from anode. Okay, so pure metal dissolves from anode and it is deposited on the cathode. So as the time passes, the anode becomes thinner and thinner, and the cathode becomes thicker and thicker, because pure metal from the anode dissolves and it goes and collects in the cathode. As a result of the collection of the pure metal, cathode becomes thicker and thicker. There will be some impurities which are less basic. They will collect below the anode as anode mud. Okay, so less basic impurities collect below the anode as anode mud. This is a reaction. Anode, at anode generally oxidation takes place. Anode is the electrode in which oxidation reaction takes place. Here metal is converted into its positive metal ion or cationous form, and it releases the electrons. Then in the cathode, metal ion combines with these electrons and it deposits as the particular metal. So you should remember, anode is the electrode in which oxidation reaction takes place. What is oxidation? Removal of electrons from any particular substance is called as oxidation, whereas gain of electrons is called as reduction. So in the anode, metal undergoes oxidation to form metal ion or cation and releases electrons. In the cathode, these metal ions combines with the electrons and get deposited as the particular metal. This can be used for the purification of certain metals like copper as well as zinc. So electrolytic refining of copper. So in the electrolytic refining of copper, the anode taken is impure copper rod and the cathode taken is pure copper strip. Okay. And the electrolyte is acidified solution of copper sulfate. I repeat, anode taken is impure copper rod and cathode taken is the pure copper strip, and the electrolyte taken is acidified solution of copper sulfate. And net reaction is that the copper in the pure form goes and deposits in the cathode. So copper in the pure form moves from the anode and it goes and deposits in the cathode. So the reaction we can see here, at anode again oxidation reaction takes place. So copper undergoes oxidation to form copper ion and it releases 2 electrons. At cathode, copper ions combines with 2 electrons and we will get pure metal, that is copper metal. Here also there are certain impurities. These impurities are less basic, so they will go and deposit as anode mud below the anode, and generally these are recovered because it generally consists of some noble metals like gold, silver, platinum, as well as it also consists of some other elements like antimony, selenium and tellurium. So generally it is recovered and it can be used. This is about the electrolytic refining. Fourth process is zone refining process, or it is also called as fractional crystallization process. So in the zone refining, the main principle is that when a crude metal is melted, what is crude metal? It is nothing but the impure metal. When the impure metal is melted and when it is allowed to solidify later, the impurities move from the solid region and they will prefer to be distributed in the molten region. So whenever a impure metal is heated and whenever it is allowed to solidify, the impurities tend to stay in the molten zone, whereas pure metal tends to stay in the solid state. That is the main principle of this technique. Here initially impure metal rod is taken and then it is covered by a circular mobile heater, maybe in the form of some induction coil. Induction coil heater can be used that surrounds the impure metal rod, and that is fixed to one end of the impure metal, and then it is heated in an inert atmosphere in order to prevent the oxidation process. Okay. So here impure metal rod is taken and then it is covered by a induction coil or circular mobile heater, and then it is fixed to one end and it is heated in an inert atmosphere. When the heating coil is moved from one end to another end of the rod, as the coil is now moving, here the circular heater coil is moved from one end to another end. So where there is a circular heater coil, in that place only a very thin zone of the particular metal melts. Very thin zone of the particular metal melts, and this molten zone moves along with the impurities. That molten zone containing the impurities only moves, whereas the pure metal stays in the same particular position. Okay. And as the coil moves further, the pure metal which is left behind there itself, it crystallizes in its purest form. So as the coil moves further forward, in the left side you are going to get the pure metal, whereas all the impurities dissolve in the molten zone and it will move along with the heater coil. So this procedure is repeated several times. After each time you are going to get more and more purity. So after repeating the process for several times, one end will be concentrated with only the impurities, whereas the remaining part of the metal rod is in the purest form. Okay. So this impure metal rod is cut and it can be discarded, and you are going to get pure crystallized metal, as you can see in this particular diagram. So this is very important process. It can be asked in your annual exam for 2 or 3 marks, or sometimes even for 1 mark also, sometimes they may ask. And it is very useful for producing semiconductors. This is important. Sometimes it will be asked, for the purification of semiconductors, which purification technique is used? Then the answer is zone refining. Or sometimes it can be even used for obtaining some other metals which are needed in very high purity, like germanium, silicon, which are semiconductors. Along with that, boron, gallium, indium in their highest pure form can be obtained by using zone refining technique. Okay. So next technique is vapor phase refining method. Okay. So main principle of this technique is that here metal initially should form one volatile compound by reacting with suitable reagent. Initially metal is treated with the suitable reagent to form a volatile compound which easily evaporates off. Okay. Then upon further heating, that volatile compound should easily decompose also in order to get the particular metal in its pure form. So it involves 2 steps. In the first step, the impure metal or the crude metal is treated with some reagent in order to form a volatile compound. In the second step, that volatile compound is heated to certain high temperature conditions so that it decomposes to give the particular metal in the pure form. So again there are 2 important procedures. First one is Mond's process for refining of nickel. This is important for your board exam, can be asked for 3 marks. Mond's process for refining of nickel. Second one is Van Erkel process for the refining of zirconium and titanium. So first let us discuss about the Mond's process which is used for the refining of nickel metal. Okay. So in this particular process, initially the impure nickel is heated with carbon monoxide gas. Impure nickel is heated with carbon monoxide gas to 50 to 80 degrees centigrade in order to form a volatile compound, nickel tetracarbonyl. So first step is heating the nickel to about 50 to 80 degrees centigrade by treating it with carbon monoxide gas to form a volatile compound, nickel tetracarbonyl. The reaction is also important. Na plus 4CO gives NiCO 4 times. Within the square bracket only you have to write that indicates that it is a coordination compound. Okay, so here a coordination compound nickel tetracarbonyl is formed in the first step, which is highly volatile. Then this compound formed upon heating to 180 degree centigrade temperature decomposes easily to form pure nickel. So you can see in this second reaction, nickel tetracarbonyl is further heated to 180 degree centigrade to form nickel as well as carbon monoxide. So this nickel obtained is the pure nickel. In this slide you can see the setup. There are shells containing the crude nickel. Whatever black colored one you can see is the crude nickel. To that carbon monoxide gas is passed. This blue colored vapors are carbon monoxide vapors. When carbon monoxide vapors are passed and when it is heated to about 50 to 80 degree centigrade, initially we will get nickel tetracarbonyl that comes out through this container, and then in this decomposition tower the temperature is increased to about 180 degree centigrade, and when it is heated to 180 degree centigrade, nickel tetracarbonyl decomposes to give the pure nickel vapors, and then it solidifies to give nickel pellets, and carbon monoxide gas is released, which can be reused for the next process. So in this particular method we can get the pure form of nickel. Next process is Van Erkel method for the refining of zirconium and titanium. Again it is important for your board exam. Sometimes can be asked for 1 marks or 3 marks also. Name the method used for purification of zirconium. Or sometimes the question asked is Van Erkel method is used for refining of which metals. So both the ways the questions can be asked. So very important for your board exam purpose. So this process is useful to get highly pure metals like zirconium or titanium. Okay. So in this particular process, the crude zirconium or titanium metal is initially heated in an evacuated vessel with iodine vapors. When it is heated, it forms a volatile iodide compound like zirconium. Upon treating with iodine gives zirconium iodide. Okay, I repeat, zirconium upon treating with iodine gives zirconium iodide. Now this is a volatile compound. This zirconium iodide compound upon heating to 1800 Kelvin temperature by using tungsten filament decomposes to give pure zirconium, which is deposited on the tungsten filament. So again it involves 2 steps. In the first step, zirconium is heated with iodine to form zirconium iodide, which is a volatile compound. Upon further heating to 1800 Kelvin temperature using tungsten filament, it dissociates or decomposes to give pure zirconium, which deposits on the particular tungsten filament, as well as iodine vapors are released. In this slide we can see the experimental setup. So iodine is taken, upon heating it will give the iodine vapors, which are passed through the evacuated vessel containing the impure titanium or zirconium. Okay. Then as the temperature increases, it will form titanium iodide or zirconium iodide. This is the first step. Titanium iodide or zirconium iodide is a volatile compound. Then when the temperature increases to about 1800 Kelvin, the titanium iodide or zirconium iodide dissociate and it will deposit on the tungsten filament as pure titanium or pure zirconium. Okay, I repeat, in the first step we will get volatile titanium iodide or zirconium iodide. Then upon increasing the temperature to about 1800 Kelvin, it dissociates into pure titanium or zirconium and goes and deposits on the tungsten electrode. This process is called as Van Erkel process for the refining of zirconium and titanium. Students, in the exam they may ask you to write the refining process for the purification of titanium. Then you have to write this equation. So titanium upon heating with iodine vapors gives titanium iodide, which is a volatile compound. This upon heating to 1800 Kelvin temperature dissociates to give titanium as well as iodine. So this titanium obtained is in the purest form. I repeat, titanium initially reacts with iodine to form volatile compound titanium iodide, which upon heating to 1800 Kelvin temperature gives pure titanium, which is deposited on tungsten filament, and it gives the byproduct as iodine. Till now we have discussed about 5 different techniques for the purification of the metal. 6th technique is the chromatographic technique. Okay. So chromatography, some of the basic concepts you have already studied in your first PU. So you know that chromatography generally involves the 2 phases. First one is mobile phase, because it generally is moving continuously, and the second one is stationary phase, because it is not moving and it is stationary. So there are 2 phases, one is stationary phase and the second one is mobile phase. So here the sample or the sample extract is first dissolved in a mobile phase. The mobile phase may be either in the form of a gas or liquid, or sometimes it may be supercritical fluid also. Okay. So mobile phase may be either gas, liquid or supercritical fluid, and then this mobile phase is moved over the stationary phase. When the mobile phase is moved over the stationary phase, the components of the given compound get separated because they will travel to different distances through the stationary phase. So there will be a stationary phase, and as the mobile phase is moved over the stationary phase, the components of the given compound get separated because they travel to different distances in the stationary phase. So there are several techniques like paper chromatography, column chromatography, gas chromatography, thin layer chromatography, etc., which you can see here, and basically they are classified under 2 categories. First one is adsorption chromatography, another one is partition chromatography. Some of the basic concepts about these you have already studied. So you know that adsorption chromatography is based on the principle that the different components of the mixture are differently adsorbed on the adsorbent column. So different components are differently adsorbed on the adsorbent column, and when the mixture is put in a liquid or gaseous form, it is moved over the adsorbent. One example is column chromatography, another example is thin layer chromatography. In the column chromatography, generally a column of maybe alumina is prepared over a glass container or glass column. A glass column is packed with alumina that acts as the stationary phase, and the component is generally dissolved in a suitable solvent, maybe in the liquid form, and that is added at the top. So this is the stationary phase containing the glass column containing the alumina, which acts as the stationary phase, and particular component to be separated is added by dissolving in a suitable solvent. And as the time passes, the mobile phase moves over the stationary phase, and then different components gets adsorbed to different levels. Their affinity for the adsorbent will be different. As a result of that, they will get separated because they will travel to different distance through the stationary phase. and then later these adsorbed components can be removed or they can be eluted by using the suitable solvent which is called as eluent. The solvent used later is called as eluent because it is used to elute the particular component which are separated at different distances over the stationary phase. Sometimes we can even see the colored bands if the components are colored. If the components are not colored, then also they can be identified by using various other detectors. And this technique is specifically used for the purification of the elements which are available in minute quantities or very less quantities. Sometimes the impurities are not much different in their chemical properties from the element to be purified. That means the impurities and the particular element, if they are not much different in their chemical properties, their chemical properties are almost similar, so very easily they can't be separated, then we can use the chromatographic technique for the separation.